describe them. Good
Um,
morning, Bill.
I hope that came on.
I hope so too. I hope that met the timeline. If
So
not, it'll live in infamy as something that we did
that's
on our
right.
own.
Between the oh, okay. So here, Chris, I will start this thing right because we ended this way.
Oh baby, oh baby,
Uh,
yeah.
uh, uh, oh, okay,
The
so
gray, the
yes.
gray is the gray on that tongue does it right. It's
Oh,
like it's such a nice gray on the tongue.
and it's fabric too.
Uh,
It's like a really tight knit. The
oh,
rest is leather,
interesting.
and the 2-3 there. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah.
They always do
And
nice little things on those with like flipping the labels so that way they stand out for like special collections and stuff like that. Yeah, man, it's really cool how much work they put into keeping that brand uh like alive, right? I mean those shoes are really old, right? Design wise, but they keep pumping out different colors and different colorways and different things like this, and people just keep buying them. It's magnificent from a branding perspective.
no genius.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that from an optimization standpoint, right? Because what you were saying before we got on air that you were trying to figure out the thing that you wanted to optimize for that you just weren't picking a priority. We can talk about that too if you want. But what is it? Do you think that the Jordan brand optimizes for? Like what are they optimizing for?
You know, that's a really great question, honestly. I don't know. Sometimes when I look at a brand like that, I just stop and wonder, like, how much of this is luck, how much of it is like the strategy, and how much of it is just pivoting at the correct times with the right data and saying, okay, cool, we're gonna go this way, we're gonna go this way, we're gonna go this way. There's this great documentary. It's called like the abstract of design or something like this. It's on Netflix, and one of the episodes is about Tink Hatfield, who is the guy who has created all the Jordan shoes, starting with the threes and up. So Mike gets signed to Nike, and the first 2 years of shoes he's not super happy with, and he's about to leave. Like he wants to break this contract and go do something else. And then on a whim, they bring in Tink. Tink sits down with Jordan. They had this great conversation. The threes come out, which are mind blowing at the time,
Yeah.
and then the fours, with the flames on the going the other way. And it's really cool because in this episode it talks about how Jordan and this designer sat down to get these little design elements and how they do these things. And the guy had revolutionary designs at the time. Pretty crazy stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to think that like that almost didn't happen, that
Yeah.
that he was not happy, he was going to leave, and then on a whim they just kind of let this guy run with the ball, and then it ends up being this you know cultural phenomenon, right? It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
And
so
it keep going, and it's like, and for those of us that are north of the fours in our age now,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I can check that box now.
we've uh we've been around long enough to see fashion, cycle a couple times. Like,
Oh yeah.
and like this is a shoe that kids today would pick up if they had no Jordan on it, right? Like design has come back around. So
Hmm.
one thing they've done obviously is kept the pulse on design and where things are and adjusted and league. But like it's just so amazing to me that obviously you have a guy like Mike that was otherworldly. He was just insane, right? So you have him to carry the brand, but he's been out of the game for gosh, how long?
I
12,
mean,
15 years,
a
if
long time.
longer. And
Yeah.
and his name because of the shoe, and of course the other athletes that carry the brand with him. That's the one thing I was just kind of thinking about is the brand carried on by other athletes carrying the Jordan name, or is it truly they're optimizing well for the business parts? Maybe both. I don't know. I just thought
And
it was interesting.
it's a really good question, because like you look at the other players at that time. I mean, Barkley had his own shoes,
Mhm.
and no one's talking about his shoes now.
Now they can choose,
Yeah. And when you look at, you know, how many more people now have shoes, I'm gonna be it'll be really curious in like 15 or 20 years from now if any of those brands have the staying power of the Jordan brand, just from, but
None of
like
them do. None of them do.
with
Because even Kobe had shoes, and
yeah.
Kobe's up there with like he's my Jordan. Like he's talking about him like that, and it's like you don't hear about Kobe shoes except for Kobe heads.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You have to go, you have to be a Kobe fan to go buy the Kobe shoes, right? To go seek those out, or the Kevin Durant's, or you know, the Steph Curry's and things like this. Like you can just be like a basketball fan and see Jordans, and you cannot like basketball at all. Like you don't have to hoop, you don't have to play or
that's what
anything
I'm
else like
saying.
this. There's a statusness to this, right? And
Cultural icon.
then when they start bringing out the retros, right, these re-releases, and now you can get these shoes that I think that honestly that's the big thing when they started re-releasing these shoes in different colorways
Yeah.
years and years and years later. That adds to the hype, and then you short the demand, so that way, of course, there's lots of media talking about how everyone's waiting for these shoes, and then you know you're kind of on the Apple truck there. You know, like whenever I was selling iPhones, they would purposefully short us, right?
Yeah.
So we'd have these long lines, so then the news would come out, and then everyone would talk about it. I mean, it was frustrating to all the people and all the salespeople who were, you know, only able to sell so many phones. But for like Apple, it's kind of awesome, right? You get all this hype and then you short it, and the oh my god, we're sold out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like no one's talking about
Everywhere.
the fact that they did it on purpose, right? It's
Oh,
kind of
everywhere.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. That's smart.
But
Well,
yes,
so let's talk about that then. Your optimization.
so,
How did you get to that?
well, so
Or-
you know, I've been there's this guy that I follow. His name's Killian Markert, and he is like a habit coach. And I've been following his stuff for a while, and he helps people, entrepreneurs, develop good habits and everything. And we've had a couple of conversations. And the other day, he had this thing for a client, and it was his habit tracker log, you know, and it was just an Excel spreadsheet. But I was kind of like, huh, okay, how much of this is automated? Is what I asked him, and he was like, well, it's kind of all manual. And I was like, okay, cool. But I've been like thinking about that like ever since then, and I've been thinking about, you know, the trade-offs you have to make to um, differentiate yourself, right? You know, in talking about Michael Jordan, I mean, when Michael Jordan came into the league, he was down to be a solo producer, right? And you see the accolades and the work that he put in to do those kinds of things, right? Shooting champion, NBA All-Star, all of these things, and then he sees the next thing. Well, I don't have a legacy. I don't have any championships. I'm not Bird or Magic, so let's go optimize for that. So the thing that I have never optimized really for in my life is my sleep. It's always just kind of been this thing that I've taken for granted and not really seen a whole lot of value in. But that is shifting pretty severely, and so I know that I need to work on that. So this thing that I this weekend we just kind of stayed up late, right? You know, birthday, and then Saturday we like Melissa and I just kind of like sat up talking until like 3 or 4 in the morning. It's like really, I mean, it was awesome. It was great. Slept late, and so then my sleep was late last night, and then you know didn't get the amount of time that I'm looking for in my sleep last night. So I didn't get up this morning and go for a walk before the show because it was like, cool, if I'm not gonna stay standard to this idea that I need to go to bed at a certain time so that way I can get up at a certain time and know that I've got enough sleep, then I don't get to go do this thing that I want to do anymore. So I'm trapping myself a little bit into like good behavior, right? I get a lot of value out of that walk, and you know, getting some reinforcement and listening to like an audiobook before I come in here and start my day. So if that's the reward, right, and something that I'm looking for, okay, cool, let's make sure that I'm optimizing around this thing. So I need to be out the door here by about 6:15, 6:30 to do my walk, so I can be back at 7:30 so we can do this. So if I'm not in bed by, you know, 11:15, I don't get to go on this walk anymore, right? It's this trap. I'm going to trap myself into doing the behaviors that I sometimes will slack on by putting this thing that I'm really invested in, this walk, at the end of it. So I'm going to be building out like a Excel spreadsheet with the habits that I'm trying to build and I'm trying to do consistently and daily. And part of my new routine will be checking those boxes that I do this, you know, that I drink enough water, did I get enough sleep, that I only eat in my window, how were my calls, how well did I stick to my plan, and things like this. So I'll build it and then we'll share it on here and we'll see if anybody else wants it.
There was somebody on the platform speaking when I was at Bouchard's High Performance Academy years ago. I forget who it was. It was somebody big. It was like a gosh, it was either anyway. It was somebody big that you would know. And they said that they had problems getting into morning routines. But they knew that it was something that they were seeing all their super high performing people around them that they hung out with. You know,
Mm-hmm.
always have a morning routine. Period. They just do. And so she was having a hard time. It was a she. Anyway, so what she did is she wrote out what she was going to do the next day, but she optimized for her morning routine, not her day. So like
Mm.
if she didn't hit the morning routine, she would somehow punish or reward or do these things for herself. And that was the only thing that mattered to her for like a month. I have to hit this 100% morning routine because she was convinced that was the difference in where she was and where it was going to take her. And I thought that was a really cool mindset shift, and that she was going to get her work done the next day. She was a high performer. She's a high capacity person. It's going to happen. She's going to get the work done, but she would not hit a morning routine. So it was like that became the thing. That's what she was focused on. And it's almost weird to think I'm not going to worry about tomorrow, except I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to read this. I'm going to do this.
And that's super important because, a couple years ago when I was really starting to get into the habit stuff, I went way overboard, right? And I had all these things I was trying to do every day. And it was, learn a little bit of German, doing a little bit of this, doing a little bit of that, doing my forms, doing all of this stuff. And I had stacked so many habits in the very early on, like creation phase of it. And so then whenever I missed like one day of Duolingo, it was just like, oh man, all these habits were just scrapped, right? So,
Yep.
so getting really comfortable and really consistent with one is important, because then, when you build on the other one later on, if you struggle with that one, it's not really tied to this other habit, and then you don't abandon all of them as quickly.
Yeah, we get impatient and all that. Okay, so Levi, what's up?
What's up,
Gabriel,
Levi?
what's up? Mike, what's up?
What's up, Mike?
Gabriel, what's up? Levi. So here's the thing. Here's the good news about uh, shoes is this happens a lot of times. So he asked if the shoes fit there. Because remember, he was giving us crap about
Oh, that's
how the
right.
shoes look versus how they fit.
That's right. Oh, Levi coming in, sucking the
They fit
joy.
great with inserts.
What's that?
I said they fit great with inserts. I hardly even check anymore without. Like I try them on, I want them to be comfortable, but the insert fits to my foot, and
Are
that's
those
all.
like those like expensive? Are they like the $60-$80 inserts and stuff like this?
Actually, they're 29.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, yeah, and then I've actually got some custom orthopedic what heel cups coming in because I have a whole thing. So I got to have a thing around my heel. Otherwise, I end up getting like a collapsed heel, and it gets painful and stuff. So
Dang,
you
interesting.
know, real life. I got scoliosis. Huh? Did you know that?
What?
I got scoliosis.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So I got scoliosis, so my hip kind of turns out, and so that ends up affecting all sorts of things, like
Huh.
my hamstring, my heel, my shin splint type stuff. Oh, all that stuff. So
Oh, we have so much to talk about. So hold on. I totally forgot about Saturday. So Saturday, I went over to go see Charles, right? And
okay,
Jake knows Charles, but a lot of other people don't. And he is a guy who does this alternative to chiropractic technique, right? And it's kind of based around the idea that the body wants to heal itself, and if you put the body in good position to heal itself, then you're going to be better set up for success. But when you're stressed out and you're not eating and you're not sleeping and stuff like this, you're not really putting yourself in a position where your body can heal, and that's where you start to have problems over time. So I went to go see him. He worked on me for a while, and it was awesome. And then he's selling his house,
yep,
right? Because he's moving, right? As bummed as I am, he's moving to Arizona, which makes me cry a little bit, but now I've got a good reason to go to Arizona and see the Grand Canyon. So he's been working on this house, right? And Charles is this unique individual who he originally told me that he was going to redo his kitchen, and I was like, cool, like who are you going to hire for that? He's like, no, I'm going to do it, and I was like, okay, bro, And then he does it, and it looks like freaking IKEA in this kitchen. And then he essentially has redone the whole house, like flipped it for himself, because he just wanted to see if he could do it, and he wanted to put in like a FEMA standardized tornado room in this thing just to see if he could. So he built this like storeroom inside of this house. It's got 5-inch thick walls, and it's all like encapsulated and everything else like this. It's really random and unique. So he wants to sell the house, and so we're talking about it. And I said, hey, why don't you call our buddy who's a realtor, and he goes, oh no, man, I'm selling this house. I'm doing this. And I was like, oh, you're doing this? And he was like, yeah, man, you just put it on the internet and people come flocking. You don't have to do anything else. And I'm just like, oh, is that how this works, Charles? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I'm not paying 6% on my house. And I was like, okay, how much do you want to sell it for? And he goes, probably 350. I was like, okay, interesting. How'd you come up with 350? And he goes, well, one person told me 400, and one person who lives here in the neighborhood told me 350. And I was like, okay, so not anybody with experience selling homes and looking at markets and stuff. And he was like, well, yeah. I was like, okay, so what's the minimum? And we're talking about all of this stuff. And then I just decided, I was like, hey, can I try to do this for you? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, look, I won't even bring you an offer that's less than $350,000, but I want like a week and a half to see if I could do this. And he was like, as an experiment? And I was like, yes, as an experiment. And I get to keep anything over this dollar amount if I can make this thing happen. And he was like, I'm down for experiments. Let's go. So yeah.
You're going to go hire a realtor.
Well, no. Well,
Okay.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through like some connections I have in the new guy in the real estate thing
Yeah,
who's
yeah, yeah.
and be like, hey, can we do this? Do you think that we can market this and position it and try to get this amount of money out of it? And then if he says yes, then I have to go find a realtor here locally who'll put their name on this thing so that way we can run it as an experiment and document the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fun. I
Yeah.
hope you do document it because I like to watch. For those who don't know, I spent years and years in real estate. I'm actually dipping my toe back in it as of this weekend. I've got that side business spun back up that you and I have talked about. So
Yep.
it's off and running. So I will love to hear about how that goes.
Well, it was really funny because I was just assuming that everybody understands the value of realtor, right?
Yeah,
And it was shocking to me because like Charles is a smart business owning dude who gets marketing even if he doesn't like do a ton of it himself. So we're talking about this conversation and he's like, I'm not paying 6%, and I'm like Charles, if I can sell it for more than 350, do you care how much of it I get to keep? And he was like, no, but don't dip into my money. And I'm
right,
like,
right.
okay. I said, Charles, how long do you want to swing at it for 350 before you start to concede that maybe your pricing's a little bit off? Or
Mhm.
do you have any other concerns? And he's like, well, I don't want it to be on the market for forever. I said, okay, why? And he's like, well, that's going to make it look bad. And I was like, okay. I said, who do you think is going to see $350,000 of value in this house? And he's like, well, someone like me. And I was like, how are you going to go find those people? And he was like, well, that's what the internet's for, John. I said, okay, cool. And I said, so this house is very kind of bespoke to you and your mindset and how you think about things and how you build. So the agent, their job is to write about this thing in a way that people who are like you, who see value in the things you have done to this house, actually come here to look at this house so that way they can see it in person and want to buy it.
Mhm.
Because this house is fantastic on the inside. It's got brand new. I mean, it's the work that this dude has done to this house is sick. I'll shoot you the video, the walkthrough of it. But
Oh, cool.
but he's just like, oh yeah. And so like we're talking about this, and I'm like, you essentially need a maker in this house, right? A maker is gonna understand the value of the fact that you have essentially torn this thing down to the studs and rebuilt it for yourself, and then life happened, you know.
Mhm.
So you need to write about this and market it in a way so that way those people want to come out and look at this thing because the other people aren't, you know.
Yep. Yep.
So
Can't wait
interesting
to see it.
conversation.
Can't wait to. Yeah, I can't wait to see how that rolls out. I just want to hear how the conversations go. Actually, I think I know how the rest of it's going to go, but that's why I'm so like, okay, let's see. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
I'm surprised too.
I don't have any I don't have any like expectations. Like I don't have any like ego wrapped up in it or anything else. Like right now it's just kind of like an experiment, right?
Yeah,
Um
awesome.
yeah.
I
So
love that. That's super cool.
yeah. And how much like cred would it be if like yeah, like I help somebody sell a house without having a real estate license. Like there's a nice story to that if we can make it happen as well.
So I'll tell you. Remind me offline to tell you about that because we'll talk some more about that.
Okay, cool.
Inside baseball. Sorry.
Inside baseball. All right, cool. I'm down for that.
We
We
got to
gotta
talk
go.
about our goals for this week.
Yeah. I
So
journaled about mine last night, but what you got, Bill?
well, so I'm in this place where I'm trying to better figure out outreach, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
we've been talking about, but I've become more and more serious about it the last few weeks in my mind. I just have my actions have not really met the severity of which I want to go after it.
Okay.
Uh, so my mindset has shifted, which is good. That's the first thing that always has to change. Uh, and I've got leads, and I'm just kind of checking the box on the asks. Not that I'm not making decent asks. It's just I feel like uh, my intention has become a whole lot more just focused about it. Okay, I just
Okay.
really want to start. I want to get better at it. I really want to. Whereas before, I just wanted to get clients. You
Mhm.
know, now I'm like, I really want to be good at outreach. That's something that I want to be good at.
Okay.
Um,
How do you define
so
good in that moment for you specifically?
right, right. Well, a lot of it, honestly, is a consistency around my activities to start. That's the start of good, because
Okay.
just because I'm doing asks, that's an improvement. That's better than I've ever been. Like
Mhm.
literally asking every day is something I've not been doing in the past. So that's a new habit. So I'm looking for what that next habit is. And repetition is what my sales coach, John Hill, would tell me,
Yeah.
is that I
Well,
got to do a lot more repetition.
the thing about it is we're dealing with potentially a fallacy here, right? Because and this is important. I don't know if anybody else caught this, but Jake said, I feel like I'm making good asks. Okay.
Mhm.
How do we know? Right? Because there's some data points there, right? There's a number of asks we're making to the number of people who respond, or maybe we look at the data point of how many people take action, right? So if we ask 50 people and only 3 people take action and come into the thing, is that good? Right? Because maybe it's good, but here's the deal: you're gonna have to do a ton of volume to get to your goals, right? And the thing that frustrates me about salespeople, right, is they'll figure out their first like set of numbers, and then they say, "Cool," and they don't try to improve upon that, right? Like I know a guy, and he makes 200 and 250, yeah, 250 cold calls a week to get 5 appointments, and I'm like,
Oh,
man, you don't think there's a better way? and and he's like, well, this works and it's consistent. And I'm like, hey, if it works and it's consistent, and you know what's going on with it, and you're okay with the effort, then that's totally fine. But the minute you start to be like, okay, cool, let's do 7, you're going to do 7 no matter what, and you start to autopilot it a little bit, right? But if you can have this idea of like, cool, like I know that I need to do 7, so let's try to get it done in 6. Let's just see if I can get this thing right, and still having that hunger of like, let's improve this thing, as opposed to, there's this thing that happens when you know the numbers, you can live too hard by those numbers and then not try to improve. So that would be the first thing I would try to figure out: how many asks are you making daily, right, or weekly, and how many people are taking action on those asks, because that's going to define for us whether or not we're making good asks or not, and how to improve on it from there.
well, my goal is to actually increase my asks for
Okay.
now so I can get more data.
Okay.
Because I have some data, and it's pretty good data, but I want more. I just want more
Okay.
data. Because
So
actually, the main difference is I've really started my targeted asks over the last couple of weeks. Because I didn't have that list until a couple weeks ago.
mhm,
And so all the asks I had before then were just kind of cold-ish. So the
mhm.
data, I don't feel like the data is trustworthy. Well, it's data for cold asks is what that is. So now I
Mhm.
want data for more targeted asks.
Okay.
So that's my goal, is to get more targeted asks, and more, of course, means you
So
know
this is an important point to ask, right? You struggled with putting this list together, right? It was your bill bet a couple of weeks ago, and it was kind of one of those things that kind of took a while because it's not your strong suit and stuff like this. And are we creating more work as opposed to just doing the work? It's kind of my first question, right?
I have the
Like
list now.
what's that?
I have the list now.
Well, no, I know, but if we're going to put together a better list of more targeted asks, right? Are we putting ourselves under the weight of something that we're not really good at?
I'm not changing lists. I have the
Okay.
same list. It's a big
Okay.
list. I mean,
Okay.
it's like 2,000 people. Like, so
Okay.
it's
Cool.
not a small list. I'm working the same list. I'm just saying I need to do more volume now on that list so I can get better data
Okay.
to go. Yeah,
Okay. Cool. That
and
that makes sense.
I mean, to make clear, like it's not something I'm good at. It's something I avoid. Is like gathering up data. I pay people to do that because I know it's not something I'm good at.
Yeah.
That's what I ended up doing because I wasn't doing it myself.
Yeah. So okay, so what's your? Do you have a new ask count for like this week that we can put on your bill bet?
Yeah, I figured I want to get to 50 this week,
Okay,
50
so
total.
10 a day.
Yep.
Well, actually, maybe more. Probably what 12 per day because Wednesday you're going to be in school the majority of the day, right?
Yes. That's a good point. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so 12 per day, and that'll put us at like 48. But
Well, I was gonna say I'll still on my calendar. I'm gonna put down after school's over. I'll go make 3, 4, 5 asks.
okay, cool.
But I need to make it up
Okay.
because I like the idea of doing it every day with a cadence.
Well, there's a consistency to it, right? You start to figure that, and this is something I've realized for myself. Like, I don't like to promote myself very much. Like I like to interact on social feeds, but I'm not this guy who's just like, hey, look at me. It's kind of uncomfortable for me and stuff. But the thing that I've started to notice myself is I have started to drink my own Kool-Aid a little bit more, like interacting with people of like, hey, like you should go look at this, you should go look at this, you should go look at this. And last week when I think I talked about this, Manesh opened up a Discord for Pavlok users, right? And I hopped in
Yeah.
there and kind of got my feelings hurt because like this one person was like, man, a sales guy's in here trying to close you in a support group, like that's crazy. And then I kind of had to like, I was hung up on that. I was like, man, screw that guy. Because I was offended. And so then I kind of had to boil it down to, okay, cool, people with skills like mine who are willing to go do that are the reason why that guy has a job, because he's not going to go do these things. He's not going to follow up. He's not going to close the loops. He's not going to, have this kind of tenacity that's kind of known for salespeople. And that's totally fine. So of course he doesn't get it. So of course it seems weird. So
Right.
I kind of had to leave it there to be kind of okay with it. But okay,
Yep.
so 50 asks this week. What else you got?
I got. I have nothing else at the moment.
Okay.
I didn't pick anything else out.
Um,
So we're going to
here,
do a personal one.
yeah.
All right. So I need to get back I tweaked my back of my heel, and so I reduced the amount of walking I did last week. So I'm gonna try and get back on the same volume I was on, which is like 2 to 3 miles a day.
Okay.
And I got
So how about 10 miles this week?
yeah.
Okay.
Is that one? What was our third one? One business, one personal.
Family.
Family, there it is. Yeah, book with my son. I didn't finish that yet. Okay.
So mine for this week are I need to create the slides for the course thing that is going to either be a companion to the book or be separate from the book, but it's going to be doing the same thing because I need to get something out there that's got like a course on there to start getting some like just revenue so that way people like it's like a good jumping off point, right, for like closers I'm working with as well as people who were I'm coaching and stuff like this. So it'll be good for everybody. So the goal for this week is to put together the slides because I know that I'm a little hesitant to do that because I want to make it like super solid and super good. And as we both know, perfect is the enemy of done. So I'm going to give myself this week to get the slides done for the chapters I wrote out last week for the course. So that'll be there. That's my work thing. I have this other work thing of this house, right? I can't really get too bogged down with this house thing. Like I need to make quick decisions on if I can do it or not. And so that way I don't start to tell myself of like, yes, John, you can do this. So I need to kind of run that through my team. Well, so
are
yeah.
you gonna make that part of your like this week as part of the bill bet and then be done with it? Like put like a time frame on it, or how's that gonna work? I think you should make it part of your bill bet. That way you
Maybe.
focus on it, and then you're done this week.
Yeah, maybe.
You
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. So that'll be part of it, right? House and slides. Alice yesterday came to me and she said, "Hey Dad, I'm going to meditate." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm going to meditate." And I was kind of like, "Cool, can I help?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Okay." I was just excited, you know? And so she came in here into the office and sat in here for a little bit. And I was like, "Okay, well, cool. Well, if you're going to sit, I would like to sit as well. And I don't have to sit with you. I'll go sit in the closet where I normally meditate because it's dark, you know?" And she was kind of like, "Okay." So it was just kind of nice to know that like I'm working on my mental stuff and she's working on hers. So my goal for this week for the family, right, is to get her to do that at least 2 more times this week. 2 more times this week, right? And most of that is just going to be like, don't oversell
Yeah, I was gonna ask,
it.
how about this? And turning it back on John, how about if you ask her twice this week?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yes.
not make
Yes.
her
Yeah.
twice.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. I should have phrased that better. The goal is not to make her; it's to remove the stuff that keeps people from building this habit, which is just like being really okay with the fact that it's a long runway, before you start to see benefits of it. But like just sitting is kind of nice, carving out that time for yourself, and really just not blowing it. Right? As parents, we get so excited about
Yeah.
the stuff we're into, and then our kids are kind of like, "Well, I'd like to dabble with this," and you're like, "No, not dabble." Have all of it. So I'm gonna
The
try very
college
hard not to.
uniform, put it on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tigers.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, you want to do jujitsu? Here's your gi, and here's a lapel grab, and just ripping her through the house and everything. So I'm gonna be trying very hard to not ruin that for her this week, but also be kind of like reminding her about it. So that was that. And then for the health self thing, I'm gonna build out the spreadsheet of the things that I'm going to be tracking, putting them into here, and then really the thing that I need to do is figure out the things I'm going to struggle with the most and tie them to my Pavlog, so that way I get some things, because man, this thing goes so deep, and like if this then that kind of like situations, they're already like a known like thing on there, so then you can just kind of go tie it to other stuff. And
I was curious, does it have like a Zapier
mhm,
recipe menu
yeah,
already
it's
built
got
into it? Okay,
it
good.
it has REST API on it.
Right,
Uh,
but you know how like Zapier and IFTTT like have pages on their site of just recipes people have
oh
built.
yeah.
If they don't, they need it.
Well, I believe they have that on if this and that, but I don't think that they have that quite as much on Zapier yet. I always have to remind myself how to say that word, because I always want to see Zapier, but that's not correct. It's
I
happier
don't
with
know
Zapier.
which. I've heard it both ways so many times. I just go with Zapier because I like it. I
Yeah,
don't even care. So
yeah,
you zap something on
I know, I know.
Zapier or
Yeah,
Zapier
but
for Steve. I don't know.
but it rhymes. Happier with Zapier.
Ooh. Is that their thing?
Yeah, that's their thing on their
Oh,
website.
well, then Zapier's right.
Yeah, yeah. I forget about that. So yeah, so that's kind of the week, right? Get the spreadsheet built with the things I want to track. Try to trap myself into really good habits around that stuff, especially around sleep. Um, you know, don't ruin the meditation thing for anybody else in the house, which is going to be hard. And the house
Yeah.
thing, run it through a quick process, determine if this is an experiment that I can do or not, and if not, go back to Charles and be like, "Hey, like, sorry, don't think I can do this, blah blah blah," and let him, because like he's not holding himself out for like another agent. He just is going to sell it by himself otherwise. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Cool, can I try to do this with you?" He was like, "Yeah, sure, I don't care." So
Cool. All right, man. Well, let's wrap this thing and take 20.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
all right, cool. Well,
All
have a
right,
good
Bill.
week
All right,
and
man.